Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and today I'm going to be breaking down Mr. Hasan Piker talking about the recent drama in reference to liberals and lefties infighting and fighting for the soul of alternative media. Let's go ahead. I'm no fan of Mr. Hasan Piker, but let's see why.
So this is the first time I've seen one of these communities, like one of these orbiter, like Destiny orbiter communities actually really look at the subject matter and be like, this was crazy. Like, this is not correct. They were just like lying about Hasan's positions and then making content off of those positions. And then that narrative becomes, for that side of the internet, that narrative is my position. I saw something that I found very interesting.
This is going to make me furious. I can already tell.
I guess there's like a dude out there. Remember the guy who like Pestany was like debating, duking out in the marketplace of ideas? He's some lawyer guy named Pisco or something. And remember when I was talking about that? Apparently his community actually did something that's quite interesting. Instead of behaving.
Crawling Chaos says, did you color your beard? No, dude, I got the donations yesterday. I haven't been paid yet. Don't worry, it'll happen.
Behaving like Destiny orbiters normally do, which is just like lie about my positions and then design an entire narrative off of this falsehood that they've created around a position that I do not hold. They actually...
Okay. So these are the positions that I think Hasan Piker holds, and I am one of the biggest Hasan haters on the internet. America deserved 9/11. So while he condemns the deaths of civilians, he thinks that American military adventurism and geopolitical intrigue has been so bad over the past century that ultimately geopolitically we deserve the terrorist attack. So like dead civilians, bad. Suicide, bad. Suicide attacks, bad. But ultimately, from a karmic balance of fucking with other people, we deserve the terrorist attack. Have I misrepresented his position whatsoever? Or is that actually just his... I'm pretty sure that's the position that he defends when he goes on to the Young Turks and tries to defend his position to his uncle. I'm trying to think about Timothée Chalamet. Oh, Timothée Chalamet, for those of you who don't know, is a young man who poses with AK-47s, who went on to, via Instagram, went on to captured ships from the Red Sea crisis, who does propaganda for the Houthis, who posts about how the Houthis are heroes, who has hung out with the hostages that were kidnapped by the Houthis. And so effectively, he's at minimum a Houthi simp, and he's at maximum a pro-Houthi propagandist that is trying to get the Houthi message out into alternative media. That's Timothée Chalamet. He's said that he was a soldier. He's posed with weapons before. And he's listened and sang songs about being ready to die in holy struggle. And then I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, and then he also posted a picture about this is what we're going to do to all Zionists. By the way, all Zionists meaning people who support the state of Israel. And it was a medieval painting of somebody impaled on a stake. And so Hasan's argumentation is, well, his last name isn't Houthi, so he's not part of the al-Houthi family, which has nothing to do with any of the information that I brought up. The dude is possibly a terrorist himself, and at minimum, he's a terrorist propagandist and apologist. Where have I misrepresented the facts, and where have I misrepresented Hasan Piker that he's sweeping for that guy and did a super charitable interview with him? I'll just do one more. He supports the Red Sea crisis. He supports the blockades. He supports the Houthis missiling random commercial vessels that disproportionately have hit Liberian ships, not American ships. He supports that. He thinks drone bombing and missiling random commercial vessels is based. What's the misrepresentation? You lying, terrorist apologizing twat.
They went back to the original. Okay, they actually went back to the original content and assessed it without Destiny filtering it. Okay. And I thought that that was really interesting. And I wanted to see if I can find it real quick. There's like, yeah, no.
John Kennedy says, don't worry, buddy. We here at Intuitive Defense won't ever talk shit to your face.
It's specifically about me and my advocacy for re-education camps, which is not even a thing that I have said, you know?
Okay. Here we go. Here's the other thing. Hasan's talking about in an idea, or Ethan presses Hasan on what would be his ideal if there were capitalists within a socialist society. And Hasan said, well, my number one would always be education, as if he's like being nice by saying education. And then Ethan is like, re-education? And Hasan, because that's obviously like a coded word for compelled struggle sessions with socialists. And Hasan's like, yeah, certainly, re-education. And then his follow-up quote, though, because this guy actually has 80 IQ, is that like, well, I would just force people to go back to school so they could learn everything again. So Hasan Piker, the crypto Marxist Leninist who's hiding his power level, is saying that he's being misrepresented because he wants re-education camps, when realistically his sanitized position is to order my boomer parents to go back to school under compulsion from the government in order to learn how capitalism is actually bad, and that they've been duped into a fake sense of history that has prevented the proletarian revolution. And what if my capitalist parents who grew up during the Cold War don't believe you and don't want to participate? What are you going to do? Oh, well, I would just give them a ticket. They don't pay the ticket. Oh, well, then I guess they would have to go see a judge. They don't go see the judge. Oh, well, then I guess they would go to jail. Yeah, no shit. You're using the fucking state in order to enforce your ideology at the barrel of a gun, you fucking idiot. Even if you don't understand that you want re-education camps, you want re-education camps, you fucking tool. Sorry for cussing so much, but this guy legitimately pisses me off. And he's like, that's a misrepresentation of my beliefs, but also I'm not going to debate anybody about my beliefs. What a coward.
It's not even a thing that I've advocated for, but I found it quite interesting because I don't really look at the other side. I don't really broach into the dark side of the internet frequently.
The final color of my beard is red.
But it was interesting seeing people basically go back and be like, hey, I don't really like Hasan. I'm a liberal. But I've realized that a lot of these other like liberal content creators have just been straight up lying about Hasan's positions, which is like, yeah, that's the.
Okay, I've received a substantive part of my information from clips and from Steven. I dare any Hasan Piker viewer and or Hasan Piker himself to tell me how I misrepresented his positions in the past 10 minutes.
That's exactly what's been going on in perpetuity, pretty much for every single thing. One of the ways in which people do that is when they take something that I've said that is a joke and act as though I'm saying it sincerely. That's obviously a classic version of this. But what's crazy about it, oh my God, they deleted it? You shouldn't trust DGG with how to interpret Hasan's ideology. Re-education camps is an example. Wait, why did he delete it? Wait, this was like a long effort post that I was going to go through. Deleted because too much context. Context is not allowed. The account got deleted? Wait, how is the...
I understand that somebody was saying like, is this the Reddit thing? Yeah, it's the Reddit thing. But also I think after that he reviews Content Queen, or he reviews Queeman, which is crazy, by the way. But that's what I'm here for.
What? Bro, this shit was there. This shit was there this morning.
LB says, why are there Houthis in the first place? I think it's important to understand how they came to be. Yeah, sure. They, what was it? There was a central government in Yemen, but there were massive rural parts in Yemen that were not properly governed. So the corruption of the central government led to a revolt. The revolt succeeded with support of Iran, and the Houthis took over the central government despite being a religious and ethnic minority. I don't even know if they're an ethnic minority. A religious and tribal minority within Yemen. And then they've been withstanding Saudi Arabian military attacks, like largely air campaigns for the past decade. And what does that change?
The account being deleted shouldn't delete the post. Yeah, what? Bro, this has 39 upvotes, dude. It doesn't make any sense why anyone would get so mad at it that they would brigade it to that degree where they would just like make the account delete the post and then delete the account itself. Like, what are these guys doing?
Might be a good idea to bring up the videos. No, I'm a streamer. I'm fucking lazy as shit. I'm going to say what it is. And if you want to go watch the original, you go watch the original. I've already watched the original like 6 months ago. I'm not going clip hunting in the middle of my stream. Thank you for the suggestion, though.
That's crazy. And if you actually look at the post itself, like you will understand why it's so crazy that they deleted it. You shouldn't trust DGG, Destiny's community, with how to interpret Hasan's ideology. Re-education camps is an example. Part 1.
Oh, okay, they found an archive. That's cool.
Re-education and Hasan's ideological beliefs. On yesterday's stream, someone named Zip called in and claimed that Hasan wants re-education camps and referred to his conversation with Ethan Klein about them. Hasan does not believe in having re-education camps, and this interpretation that he does is clearly bad faith when you listen to Hasan's fleshed out thoughts.
Okay. So I already brought up how he thinks that you want schools to educate or re-educate capitalist sympathizers once you achieve the socialist stuff. So even if you're like, well, I don't really want to do it by force. I want to do it democratically. I want to do the capitalist re-education in a nice way. Okay, let's just say that I grant you that. How about sweeping for Xinjiang and the cultural genocide that took place there and saying that it's now the tourism hour, when the very article that you were referencing was about how if you go to Xinjiang and you try to figure out what happened to the cultural genocide of Uyghur Muslims, effectively 10 governmental narcs will start following you around town and glaring at anybody who talks to you about the camps, effectively bullying them with the threat of snitching on them to the central government to say that nothing bad happened. How about that creepy fucking shit? Here's the thing. The allegations in Xinjiang are pretty bad. So it's not that it was like the Jews in the Holocaust where they just took all the Uyghur Muslims and they just like put them in camps and or gas chambers and then fucking executed them. That's not what happened. That's not the reporting that happened. But the reporting that I did see happen was the Uyghur Muslims were physically segregated. They were brought into re-education camps. They were educated out of being Muslim. The military-aged males were put into work camps for a decade so they would age out of terrorism. The women were forced to live with and hang out with Han Chinese men in the hopes that the Uyghur women would fall in love with the Han Chinese men and eventually their culture would be destroyed. And then realistically, the only thing that they were allowed to hold on to culturally was the way that they dressed and some of their music. So you effectively obliterated culturally a religion. You annihilated their ability to resist. You did mass punishment and incarcerated military-aged males for like a decade so they couldn't engage in terrorism. And then you now have a program where if anybody goes to investigate these issues, then they will get snitched upon and they will also get incarcerated. That's a kind of dystopian, authoritarian, Orwellian bullshit that the Soviet Union was accused of, and in my mind is some of the greatest horrors that you can inflict on human beings possible. Why the fuck would you ever sweep for that if you didn't believe in re-education camps? Right? I didn't use the hyperbole. I didn't say that it was like a raw Holocaust-style genocide. I actually described what I've read in news reports. One more thing before we continue. Not only that, China has been credibly accused of organ harvesting of its political enemies. The Falun Gong tribe, whatever religion within China, but also Chinese prisoners in general, If you go to China right now, you can get a vital organ within 2 weeks. And the suspicion is that the Chinese prison system is euthanizing political dissidents and then making their vital organs available to international travelers. Guess what? If you euthanize someone and take their fucking heart, you can't wake them back up. They're fucking dead. So you're talking about a capital punishment system in order to do organ harvesting. So yeah, that's pretty fucking evil. So if you sweep for that, I'm going to assume that you're hiding your fucking power level.
Here are the clips. But I guess you can't even see the clips now because because everything is gone. Ethan, if the will of the people is to go back to do a social democracy, is that something that a socialist country should move towards, or should there be realism? I think the resistance should be akin to how capitalist governments have resisted historically to any kind of socialist movement. Not to that same degree of violence, but yes, the solution to that would always be education and offering more re-education. Re-education, sir.
Oh, here we go. Here's the exact quotes.
Certainly. Yeah, I know that's a trigger word. Let's put them in camps. No, not like that. I know it's a trigger word because everyone goes, oh, re-education. What do you mean? Well, China does that. Are you talking about resident schools? Are you talking about Xinjiang? China has re-education camps. Yeah, 100%. They do it. They did it in Xinjiang, which is pretty good, right? No, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't think it was good. And this is something I've openly criticized as well. That's not good. The massive surveillance apparatus they built in Xinjiang is not good.
Is not good. This is the same thing as where he's like, I think it's inappropriate. Okay, so I'm sorry. What's your alternative? Let's put Hasan. Let's make Hasan the communist dictator. Okay, maybe he'll answer this in a month, right? But you have the Uyghur population. There's jihadist terrorists amongst them. They're worshiping a religion that's contradiction to your nation state, and they don't believe in communism. What do you do?
So what would be a good socialist re-education camp for a capitalist? I don't think it would be camps. It depends on the crime, right? Like, are people committing crimes at the behest of this? Because if there's a socialist state and someone is doing like white terror, let's say.
All right, let's Google white terror real quick. They made fun of Pisco for not knowing what it is. White terror definition, French Revolution. White terror refers to periods of intense political repression and violence carried out by anti-revolutionary and counter-revolutionary forces, often following a revolution or regime change. These periods are characterized by widespread arrests, executions, and other forms of persecution against perceived enemies of the new order. The term white typically refers to the colors associated with counter-revolutionary forces, particularly in contrast to the red of communism or revolution. So they're talking about paramilitary action against the state, which, by the way, is what the Uyghurs were accused of, because the Uyghurs went on several stabbing jihadist terrorist campaigns. But that wasn't all of the Uyghurs. It was obviously a minority of them.
Where someone is doing South Korean style purges of communists.
Holy shit, I wish.
Which has happened historically in every country that America is aligned with, because they are anti-communist, where they launch military dictatorships. Whether we like it or not, those things happen. So in a situation like that, I think if there's any terrorism happening, yes, if there's violence, that is obvious, says Ethan, I say, then yes, I do think there should be an enforcement mechanism. And in that enforcement mechanism, I think rehabilitation, which would include re-education as well.
Wait, hold on. You're just explaining how and why the camps in Xinjiang were created. Oh my God. This didn't come from nowhere. Uyghur knife attack. So there were half a dozen of these in the 2010s. But he said, like, if there's white terror, China charged 4 people with murder and terrorism for a mass knife attack at Kunming Railway in which 29 people were killed. Attackers armed with knives stabbed and slashed at people in the first March attack, injuring 140 people and killing 29. State media said 4 suspects were shot dead at the scene and 4 others arrested. The attack was one of the several recent incidents blamed on Uyghur extremists in the western Xinjiang region. The attack of Kunming Station caused widespread shock in China. Eyewitnesses described attackers using curved swords and meat cleavers to stab random people at random. Okay, so that That's the white terror that he's talking about. So he says like, no, I wouldn't do that. I would only do that if there was like white terror. Well, the Uyghurs were engaged in white terror. They engaged in counter-revolutionary activity. China has executed 3 accused separatists for their role in the attack that killed 31 people at a train station in the country's southwest last year. It's the same story. Tuesday's announcements of the execution came 6 months after Iskander Ahet, Turgan Toyotsaz, and Hassan Muhammad were sentenced to death after being convicted of homicide and leading a terrorist organization, which, by the way, I don't begrudge them this part of it. A higher court later upheld the sentence, the official Xinhua news agency reported. And by the way, there were 4 people that were arrested. So what happened to the 4th guy? Was he a witness or did you already kill him? Police shot 4 other assailants during the knife attack, which injured 141 people. Xinjiang, home to the Muslim Uyghur minority, has been plagued by unrest in recent years. Yeah. So they started with the cultural and religious oppression. Then the Uyghurs did the terrorist attacks, which you could characterize as white terror, the way that Hasan is using it, justifying his re-education camps. Amazing.
Which would probably be a lot better than like a prison structure where they have slavery, like in the United States of America.
So you just explained why you should do re-education, not how.
America. He explicitly rejects the idea. This is the input from the person. He explicitly rejects the idea. What is this? Former orbiter alert. He covered the video and it has videos. Pisco stumps Destiny, leaves him coping in heated Twitter exchange.
Excellent.
He explicitly rejects the idea of the re-education camps. In the way Hasan explains it, he talks about the education of socialism to be the same and how a capitalist country would teach or indoctrinate for capitalism. In the way he talks about re-education, he's talking about a rehabilitative process for people who commit violent crimes or ideologically motivated. For Hasan's alternative in practice, it already exists. There are several liberal democracies that run compulsory and voluntary de-radicalization programs for violent extremist offenders. Exactly. Which is ironic because...
Hold up. And by the way... Oh, Jesus, my back button. My back button is fucked, so it always rewinds way too far. Let me get to the last part, which is true. I think it's right here.
Alternative in practice, it already exists. There are several liberal democracies that run compulsory and voluntary de-radicalization programs for violent extremist offenders. Exactly.
Okay. But we're not talking about violent extremist offenders. China, which you sweep for, did this with the entire population. So what? You're going to wait for anti-cat... Dude, if you want to go this way, that's totally fine. If you want to have your socialist revolution, and then I'll be a anti-communist guerrilla fighter. Anti-communist guerrilla fighter meme. What will your position after communism is achieved? Anti-communist guerrilla fighter. And it's the silhouette of a bodybuilder with his socks still on, with like short shorts on, standing silhouetted in the doorway. This is unironically me. So yeah, so if you want to try to achieve socialism or communism, and then you want me, this based Giga Chad to fight you, and then when you capture me after like I've blown up a bunch of infrastructure and killed a bunch of communists, you want to be like, yeah, Connor, we're going to take you to night classes so that you can be a nicer person. Okay, that's fine. Sure, why not?
Exactly. Which is ironic because like I have in the past jokingly said like we need re-education camps for these people when described
jokingly after hanging out with MLs and saying that you hide your power level so you can radicalize people further. Amazing. Fuck you, Hasan.
When describing this process of like violent right-wing extremists that are committing acts of terror, right? Like crazy anti-vaxxers and shit.
Thank you for becoming a member, David.
Like that. Zip is one of the most deranged.
Like crazy anti-vaxxers. Is that what he just said?
Camps for these people when describing this process of like violent right-wing extremists that are committing acts of terror, right? Like crazy anti-vaxxers and shit like that. Zip is one of the most
Oh, so if you don't believe in this is not going to create authoritarianism, by the way. Hasan is just an woo cute boy. He's just a sock dem, really. Like, he uses socialism, you know, but he's really just a social democrat. But he wants to re-educate your family that doesn't like vaccines. Awesome. Awesome. We're just killing it today.
Deranged DGG foot soldiers. He even attended his court hearing, and I shit you not, made footnotes to share with the Epstein for the stream, completely presenting the victim as a liar. They are not normal and definitely take a parasocial to a whole new level. There are a lot of people like this. There are a lot of people like,
dude, I'm just telling you right now, if you try to make my extended family, because they're not by blood, my wife has an extended family that's rednecks. If you try to compel my redneck family to go to school again because they don't want to take a vaccine, they will fucking murder you. Okay, I'm just being real. I'm not going to do shit. But Cletus and Kenny and fuck it, I don't have a extended family member named Cletus, but I do have an extended family member named like Kenny. Kenny and Dave, I dare you to try to get a cop to arrest them and take them to night classes so they can learn about how vaccines are good. I fucking dare you to try.
like this in this community. It's like parasocial. It's like maxed out parasocialism with incredibly weird, just an incredibly, like, they do like psyops, you know what I mean? And they're in here.
I think you're psyoping me right now, Hasan.
Here right now, probably too. But they just like, it's like a cult. It's like a sex cult where they do psyops at the behest of their favorite content creator. And even if it doesn't work, even if it doesn't actually end up, working, it still doesn't matter. They still do it all the time. It's very, very weird. What is a crazy anti-vaxxer? A forced re-education for parents who had vaccine-injured child? Come on, use a better example. Vaccine-injured.
Yeah, let's see how he explains this one away, because the way that I understood what he said is that people will have to go to class in order to be re-educated about vaccines. That's the way that I read that shit.
Injuries are real. I think they use an example here to say, here's my support. Part 2, Destiny, thought crimes and Hasan derangement syndrome.
Oh, just skipped it.
I had actually looked into this a few days ago because I heard Not So Erudite talking about Hasan, and she repeated the same bad faith interpretation as well. So
Afterglow says the human organ harvesting thing has been debunked. Amazing. Human organ harvesting China. I love this, by the way. I love you, Afterglow. I love you because you just show that the left wing is as fucking stupid as the right wing. You're my favorite chatter now. Okay? Because the truth is that the left wing and the center left, you guys think that you're immune to stupidity. You think that because you have a collection of ideas centered around an ideology that you think is vaguely correct, that you are immune to being dumb or wrong, which is awesome to me. Because the truth is, every tribe can be dumb or wrong. Here we go. Let's just open the first 4. Let's open the Wikipedia. Organ harvesting in China is real. Here are the smoking guns. This is what David Mattis told the members of the European Parliament who passed a historical resolution against China on May 5th, a bitter winter exclusive. So I'm not going to read all this shit for you because I've already read it. But here's evidence from actors in the system. We have half a dozen people who are involved in the fucking organ harvesting, and we have all these hyperlinks to evidence that they talk about. And not only are they talking about it, they're saying this evidence in front of the fucking EU Parliament, and the EU Parliament is passing resolutions based off of the information provided. So are you smarter than the EU Parliament? Does this debunk what's going on? Okay. Then, on On Friday, Congressman Neil Dunn introduced Block Organ Transplant Purchases from China Act, or Block Act, to prohibit federal reimbursement for organ transplants and related medical services when the organs or origins cannot be verified. This is because you can go to China and you can get vital organs within a couple of weeks. That's why this bill is proposed. And when you ask where did the organs come from, they go, don't worry about it. China, UN human rights experts alarmed by organ harvesting allegations. So find me the debunking, okay? Find me, we have the UN saying that they're investigating it. We have the EU with half a dozen witnesses who said that they were part of the operation. We have the fact that you can go get vital organs from China within a couple of weeks. So please, Afterglow, you're so ready to debunk me. Please debunk me, right? And then if you want to go back here, do it. Do it. Please debunk the first 4 articles in this 30-page Wikipedia page with over 175 resources. Please, Afterglow. Please prove me wrong. I am begging you. Prove me fucking wrong.
Basically, what happens is I say something, Destiny cuts it in half, chops it up, immediately frames it in the most...
No, I think what you said right now is dumb enough, Hasan. I think what you said right now, coupled with a few other segments that I've watched you do, I think this is stupid enough.
Negative way possible, and extends it to the most like extreme hypothetical that I'm not advocating for, even if I'm directly knowing full well that someone is going to do a bad faith interpretation, even if I...
In this very segment, you said that some of the people that would need to be sent back for education or re-education are people who don't like vaccines, Hasan. Does that seem in line with liberalism or freedom or autonomy or bodily autonomy? Please try to compel my extended family member, Kenny, to go to night classes so he can find out about how at the barrel of a gun, like have a cop try to escort my family member, Kenny, to go learn about how mRNA vaccines are good. See how that works out for you.
Actually, ahead of the dishonest interpretation, literally spell out exactly what I want.
Yeah, my wife says Kenny doesn't need night school. He needs he already has Google.
And exactly what I think is the appropriate thing to do in this scenario. It doesn't even matter because he has a network of other content creators, including like these apolitical orbiters that also take that out of context snippet and just go along with that narrative and pump it to anyone that will listen. And
I would love for you to explain to me how you're going to re-educate people about vaccines or capitalism without state force, Hasan. I am begging you to explain it.
Then that's how you arrive at like all of these crazy conclusions that people have about my Asman, does anyone exactly the same thing with you? Yeah, there's a bunch of like relatively large content creators who also participate in this, which is, you know, understandable why so many people have enmity towards someone like myself, because they just don't know what my worldview is.
Dude, I watched you hang out with fucking tankies and giggle about how you pretend to be more moderate in order to suck in normies. If I'm watching you hang out with Marxist-Leninists who in turn apologize for terrorism, then you yourself are constantly sweeping for terrorists and constantly sweeping for authoritarian regimes. And then you say like, oh, I would do what they would do, but I would do it nicer. Why wouldn't I just assume you're hiding your power level?
Only seen my worldview through the most negative lens that they could possibly see. And they use
I'm pretty negative on it, I'm not going to lie.
Reddit for this propaganda. They use Reddit for this like this purpose, because Reddit is like so easily brigaded. And this effort post was yeeted. Like, look at this. This effort post with 39 upvotes was destroyed. The account that posted it.
Fast and Bulbous for $5. If Hasan is for re-education, that's how you get more Sima Hi-Has. Which one's Sima Hi-Ha? I don't want to print. Who prints nowadays? Oh yeah, the Finnish sniper. Yeah. The White Death. The dude who this dude in like World War I, World War II, Russia invaded Finland, and this dude's like 5'1", and he just like lived in snow for like 3 years, just murdering dozens, if not hundreds, of Soviet soldiers. Yeah, this dude's like he looks like a nice fella, but he's like a stone cold psycho. He just lived in the snow, and he grew up, hunting foxes and hunting wolves and bears in the Finnish tundra. And so he just did that, but he just did that with Russians. Nice. Based. We're almost at 200 people. I Parasocial love you. Thank you for being here. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage in chat, comment on the VODs, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Appreciate you. We've had such a good week, by the way. I might not be shilling very much, and I might be having a very lazy Friday today. The only reason why I'm being lazy is because we've had such a good week, right? The dramas, we shot past 300 a couple of times. We shot past 200 a couple of times. The donos were off the chain all week. So I know that like successful people, they press. But I've been a B student at life. I'm not going to lie. I never got A pluses. I got Bs. And I never did my homework. So I'm kind of having like a chill day where I'm going to get pissed off at Hasan and yell at him, but I'm not going to be as high energy as I was yesterday. Yesterday, I was fucking in it to win it. Let's get into the drama. Let's throw some elbows. Today, I'm just going to be like, yeah, Hasan's a dumbass piece of shit. Here's why. So it should still be enjoyable, though.
Was deleted, and the post itself was deleted by the person who made this post. How crazy is that? 29-minute in that YouTube vid was linked to see how D poisons the well and misconstrues your point. Let's take a look. Is this it?
Oh, the people.
Queeman's my favorite deranged Destiny hater because this dude lives to hate. He lives to hate. He wakes up every single day and he's like, I have to find somebody to talk shit about. Like it's his whole, it's the way he operates. And you know what? While I'm not in the mood for that all of the time, I'm in the mood for it a substantive amount of the time. There's something magical about a pale white man stuck on an island, constantly covered in the shadows of clouds in a temperate zone, finding people that he hates and talking shit about them. Now, sometimes he's really fucking mean, like really mean, and sometimes I think he's really wrong. Oftentimes, though, even when he's mean and wrong, he's funny. So I have a antagonistic relationship with the man, but I would like to think that it's playfully antagonistic. I don't hate him. I understand him.
Is to go back and to do more of a social democracy. Is that something that a socialist country should move towards, or should there be resistance in the government to keep socialism?
I think the resistance should be akin to how capitalist governments have resisted historically any kind of socialist movement, not to that same degree of violence, but I think that, yes.
I was about to say, which still involved a fuckload of violence and extrajudicial killings.
The solution to that would always be education and
re-education camps.
So,
offering.
We're about to get the sweep.
Dude, literally, he is immediately, the narrative is just like knee-jerk, pure knee-jerk, and now he's going to justify it.
Because he hangs out with Marxist-Leninists, Queeman. Because he hangs out with Second Thought. Because he hangs out with Hakeem, who are Marxist-Leninists. They're revolutionary communists. They simp for China. They sweep for China. They simp for the Soviet Union. They sweep for the Soviet Union. They argue for terrorism. Why would we take the maximally charitable interpretation of what they've said when they have been saying on their own podcast that Hasan Piker says the sweet, nice version of Marxist-Leninism so we can radicalize people further down the pipeline? Why would we believe a fucking hyper charitable interpretation? By the way, Queeman's not dumb. So I actually want to hear Queeman's, I think he would think it's fair. I would like to hear his fair interpretation of what's about to be said.
For the rest of the clip. So the question was just, how would a socialist state enforce socialism? Yeah, how
Yes. Important question.
would it perpetuate socialism? How do you know it wouldn't just turn a one generation ago capitalist and it all comes crumbling down? How would that be perpetuated?
Okay. I'm okay so far.
And someone's like, well, similar to capitalism, you know, education. Re-education? Why don't you give it a moment? Why don't you hear what he's saying first?
Okay.
More
Re-education?
Or spaz?
re-education, certainly. Yeah.
What total spaz?
Somebody give me the clip of that one loser who's like, we would house our comrades in re-education camps. Please give me the clip.
I know that that's like a
Let's put
trigger
them in
word.
camps.
No, not like that.
Like not only did he falsely present the argument that I was making.
How? He might have had an extremely uncharitable interpretation, but how did he falsely prevent the narrative?
Okay, by cutting the context in half. But then he just like follows up, I guess, by adding a total ridiculous thing that I'm not advocating for, by presenting an alternative, like a totally separate person, and be like,
The totally separate person actually has an ooh-woo cutesy education system. The ooh-woo cutesy one is effectively like you incarcerate people pretty much within like nice rehab centers. You just incarcerate them where they can wake up, they have a nice room, they can eat food, they can drink water, they can socialize, they can hang out, but a substantive amount of their day is going to classes to learn about how socialism is actually ooh-woo and cutesy and how you should participate in the general socialist society. And then if you go, okay, you know what? I think I get it now. I understand that socialism is based and I'm ready to go be a productive member of society. Then you get released. But if you say, fuck you, I love free market capitalism. I love it when owners and workers do voluntary economic transactions that don't involve the workers owning parts of the means of production. I love entrepreneurialism. I love Ayn Rand. I love libertarianism. I love Elon Musk. Then you just have to stay incarcerated, which, by the way, is effectively the shit that happened in Xinjiang that Hasan constantly minimizes. So please, once again, don't just say we are wrong, demonstrate how we're wrong. Christian Blair says, unless it's for a vaccine, it's like a 95% death rate. Americans, even pro-vaccine ones, would be morally obligated to resist government-forced vaccination if the government is... Yeah, dude, it's not about whether or not vaccines are good. It's whether or not you have some level of bodily autonomy. That's what it's about. It's about whether or not the state, at the barrel of a gun, can just force you to consume chemicals, right? Now, you could say that that's technically already happening with pasteurized milk or regulated food. But the truth is you don't have to drink milk because you can drink water, or you can drink plant-based milk, or you can just avoid milk products altogether. Like the compulsion might be in the regulation of pasteurization, but you have 10 million different opportunities. Whereas what Hasan and his ilk are saying is that if you do not subscribe to our beliefs, we will incarcerate you and force you to listen to us talk to you until you agree with us. We will struggle session the fuck out of you. And then not just that, they're acting like, oh, well, you know, it's not as bad as capitalist counter-revolutionary violence, but they're ignoring the fact that we have historical precedent for this. Not only did this happen in the early 20th century within the Soviet Union, not only did this happen within Maoist China during the early phases of the Maoist China, but this also happened as recently as the 1970s. There are people who are my parents' age who were forced at the barrel of a gun to go into ideological struggle sessions, and if they were too radical, they were just killed by the fucking mob. 500,000 people in China were just killed for being too sympathetic to capitalism. And then millions of others were terrorized to the point that they had to undergo struggle sessions where they were effectively like just harangued for hours at a time until they said, oh yeah, socialism is based actually. Dude, just look at this shit. They have fucking pictures. I'm not making shit up. Mao, Cultural Revolution pictures. Mao Zedong whipped up the teenagers and the 20-year-olds in China to reinforce communism. And this is what they did to dissenters. They detained them. They made them hold up signs about their fucking thought crimes. And then they just fucking yelled at them for hours until they eventually were shamed into admitting that socialism was fucking based. Why wouldn't we presume that this is exactly what you want to do, considering you constantly do apologia? What the fuck? Why would we presume that you didn't want to do this when you fucking hang out with Marxist-Leninists? What the fuck? Am I supposed to not believe my eyes or ears?
Like, this is what he believes. No, I started off by talking about the...
Please, dude, this is actually where I feel like Hasan is 80 IQ. Don't just say we're wrong. Explain how, please.
importance of rehabilitation. Why not ignore these morons? The reason...
Sapien Green says, is parasocialism depending on the decommercialization of the relationship? No idea. Parasocialism means that it's a one-way relationship, right? So that means that you guys feel like you know me because I talk about my personal life, because I talk about myself, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't really know you, right? It's like a one-way relationship. It's like somebody who doesn't engage with their chat. But for me, I would say that we have a limited social relationship. I know Sapien Green. Sapien Green is one of my first donors. Like not only is he one of my first donors, like once a week, once every 2 weeks, he gives like 15 to 20 bucks, which by the way, that kind of tells me that he's probably a working class schmo, a middle class schmo. He's putting himself through school, or he's working a job. He's trying to get it at life, all that kind of stuff. So he's not swimming in cash, but he values the YouTube channel. And so he's helping out. He's helping out when he can. And then Sapien Green will also tell me like various political insights through his chat. So it's not rawly parasocial. I know Sapien Green to some degree, but I also don't know what you look like. I don't know what your family's like. I don't know what your upbringing was. I don't know what your state is, all that kind of shit. Anyways, so parasocialism can be helped by decommercializing the relationship. That's just an interesting question.
The reason why I wanted to cover this specifically is because I noticed that this is happening within Destiny's own orbit.
Please just explain how we're wrong.
And that's the only reason why I'm covering it, because like these guys, including this guy who's covering it, including like this community that's covering this, are a lot of people that are in this other, like on the apolitical / liberal side of the internet. And this is the first time that I've seen people on that side be like, wait a minute, these have been lying to us all along about Hasan's positions. Like, it's not a who cares situation. I think it's important to understand this, and it's important to address this, especially because I have ignored it for years and years, and they haven't really gone away. They've literally designed an entire industry, an entire cottage industry about around just literally pumping out content that revolves around doing exactly what this microcosm is here. Okay.
Bruh, you still haven't explained how your critics are wrong. You said, I was clipped out of context. They're only showing half the clip. Here's an explanation. And the explanation is, well, I wouldn't do it that way because I actually think that Xinjiang and re-education camps is bad. I would do nice re-education camps. And examples of people that should be re-educated are people that don't like vaccines. Is Hasan's audience retarded? Sorry, Ken. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Jesus. My apologies for the ableist language. But are they genuinely stupid? Do they have an 80 IQ? Do they not know what words mean? How is that a refutation of what's being said? What's being said is Hasan Piker hangs out with Marxist-Leninists and talks about how he's a part of the radicalization funnel for revolutionary socialists and communists. That's a fact. Refute that fact. Hasan Piker sanitizes and even endorses the terrorism involved in the Red Sea crisis. That's a fact. Please refute that fact. Hasan sanitizes and borderline endorses what's happening in Xinjiang, China, but he says that it's wrong to do, and realistically, he would do the same thing, but in a nicer way. Please, please debunk this fact. I am waiting.
Where I say something, people immediately interpret it in the most bad faith way possible.
You're just re-explaining how people don't understand you. You're not explaining how they're wrong.
And then they just like pump out content surrounding this like bad faith misunderstanding. And
God, I should honestly, if being a Hasan hater pays the bills, I will be a Hasan hater. I will just endlessly sit here watching 80 IQ content and call him an idiot.
And but the reason why I have always ignored it is because like
Afterglow says the EU Parliament is not a judiciary and the genocide claims are managed by the ICC and the ICJ. Whatever a congressman says is not proof. Oh, wow. You debunked me. You said, I don't trust your sources. Ooh, good counterpunch, Afterglow. The CCP investigated itself and they found nothing wrong. Good job. You understand that fucking sucks, right? You understand that in order to actually debunk these claims that involve like a dozen witnesses and a whole bunch of like, I don't know, 176 different sources, you would actually need to go like, no, actually, here's where they're getting the vital organs from. Here's the process of them getting the vital organs. Here's the actual statistics that explain how it's not an anomaly that anywhere else on the planet you have to wait months for vital organs, but in China you can get them in 2 weeks. You haven't debunked shit. So you could be a smart character. Maybe you're young, maybe you're dumb. I have no idea. But the truth is, you haven't debunked dick. You just said, I don't trust your sources.
there's not really much you can do about it. People are just always going to lie. And my expectation, hopefully.
Oh my God. AKA Batasui asks a super important question. Would you rather have to do forced labor in a prison camp or have forced education in a prison camp? Dude, I would rather do labor. I would rather do labor than fucking... If I had the choice between breaking large rocks into smaller rocks for 8 hours a day or listen to Hasan Piker for 8 hours a day, I would break large rocks into small rocks. Holy shit.
Is people will go, wait a minute, is this true? And then come in here.
LB, making a point that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. People not wanting to vaccinate is their choice, but they can't get mad when they're excluded from places and jobs. Yeah, no shit. That's what you can do in a free society. Your fucking dumbass fucking uwu himbo fucking communist king over here said that he would compel people into re-education if they didn't like vaccines. That means that you get a piece of paper saying, hey, you have to go to this class. And then if you don't go to that class, you get a fine. And if you don't pay the fine, you go to jail. And if you don't want to be in jail, you have to go to the class. Meaning that if you resist being incarcerated, you will be killed by a law enforcement officer. That's how state authority works. So don't talk to me about the liberal model. We understand the liberal model. We live in the liberal model. It's the content. This is my job. My mother-in-law is here, so my wife wants me to stop yelling so much. We understand the liberal model. He's talking about an alternative model, a socialist model. So please keep up with the conversation, conceptualize what he's saying, and figure out where what I'm saying is wrong and what he's saying somehow debunks what I'm saying. Don't just respond to the emotions. Respond to the words, please.
On their own and try to understand with a little bit of charitability, right? And it does happen. There are
Afterglow says, this is the investigation. Where are the results of the investigation? Go read the first page, Afterglow. Go to google.com, like I just did. Type in Chinese accusations of organ harvesting, of forced organ harvesting. Then click on the first article and read it. I've already read it. You go read it.
plenty of people in this community that probably originally started off with a false interpretation of what I believe, what I represent, and what my advocacy looks like. And
I think you're a socialist. I think that you say you're a socialist. I think that you hang out with Marxist Leninists and you say that you hide your power level. Where am I wrong?
then came in and watched my commentary personally and were like, okay, this was
I'm watching your commentary now and it fucking sucks. I can't believe you're successful.
completely wrong, right? But there are plenty of people who don't take that leap, and there is a steady flow of circulating content out there.
Should I just milk this motherfucker forever? I would. I will if I need to. If it's like a public service for me to watch 80 IQ content and just say, you haven't addressed the point, you haven't addressed the point, you haven't addressed the point, you haven't addressed the point. If that is in any way entertaining, I will create that content. I actually don't find it that entertaining because there's no meat here. It's all vacuous. It's all air.
That they don't ever have to take that leap, because even when I'm not streaming, they're like scouring the internet to find older clips of me to like recirculate, to be like, see, he's bad. Just remind yourself that he's bad. And it constantly feeds into that. Yeah,
Marxist Leninists are bad. Shadow 2 Bravo, $5. If anyone comes for your dad, the gorilla band will ride with hate in our hearts. True.
Constantly feeds into this, like Hasan is bad because he's like a scary Marxist Leninist who's going to kill you all, right? So this is the first time I've seen one of these communities, like one of these like orbiter, like Destiny orbiter communities actually really look at the subject.
Fanatic Monkey says, how would our country engage in educating their citizens against that? What anti-American without involving the term re-education due to its rightfully earned stigma? Genuine question. Public education. You just educate people from 0 to 18, and if they become anti-American pieces of shit when they're adults, then you okay. We gave you 18 years. You live in a free society. Good luck. The free society we currently live in does like I think that we don't do sufficient civic education so people understand democracy or republicanism or the way that our system works. Like I still remember all my civics classes because I loved my civics classes, but apparently 80% of the population is dumb as shit and they think that like the president is a king. So I would reinforce civic education and why we think mixed economy capitalism is good and why we think liberal democracy / republicanism is good. So I would just reinforce that at the public education level. But if you turn 18 and then you go to college and then you fall in with like a Marxist revolutionary communist group, that's no skin off my ass. I don't give a shit. You can think dumb thoughts. It's a free country.
Matter and be like, this was crazy. Like, this is not correct. They're just like lying about Hasan's positions and then
tell me your position. Stop telling me we're lying about you, you dumb piece of shit.
Making content off of those positions. And then that narrative becomes, for that side of the internet, that narrative is my positions. Like, no one is actually jumping. No one is actually leaping past that point and being like, what is this guy's actual opinion? They only see me from an incredibly negative lens. Why are there no ads on the stream? It's because my contract ended. Thank you for asking. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, and no one else. They still think you're pro-Russia. That's one of the most famous examples. I know. That's exactly what I mean. Like, any kind of nuance that I've actually offered in commentary that doesn't go along with like the immediate pro-America position, a lot of people will grab onto to be like, no, he loves the enemies. And it's usually very simplistic narratives too.
I know there's a
not the camps. Oh, no.
word because everyone goes, "Oh, re-education." What do you mean? Like immediately people think like, "Are
Well,
you
China
talking
does
about?
that.
Are you talking about like resident schools? Are you talking about the
China has
Xinjiang?" Yeah,
re-education,
100%. They
yeah.
do. They do it. They did it in Xinjiang,
Which
which I
isn't
think
good,
was,
right?
no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was good. This is something I have openly criticized as well. Like that's not good. The massive surveillance apparatus they built in Xinjiang is not good.
So what would be
Even
good
though
about a socialist re-education camp for capitalists?
It wouldn't necessarily. I don't think it'd be camps. I mean,
It wouldn't be camps. It would be a school. It would be a building. We wouldn't put you in a tent. We would put you in an air-conditioned building. Oh, wow. All my concerns are alleviated. Ninu, thank you for becoming a member.
Well, it wouldn't be Oh my god.
Like we already have a pre-existing system of rehabilitation that exists.
Yeah, it's called incarceration. So do you want to incarcerate capitalists? Hasan, feel free to expand. I'm waiting.
Under liberal capitalist democracy, I think we should continue doing that. And also, this is complete alternative reality hypothesis.
Okay, so he wants to reorient public education so they teach socialism. And then if you're an adult who believes in capitalism, then what? Because in that conversation, you said re-education. So if you're talking about re-education, what are we talking about? We talking about night classes? We talking about cops with tickets? You know, you were caught creating a free enterprise without permission from the state, and you did not decommodify. Well, I guess the decommodification would happen at the state level. But you didn't share the means of production with your employee. Therefore, here's a ticket. And if you don't pay that ticket, you will be incarcerated. What are we talking about? I'm waiting for Hasan Piker, the most popular socialist on the internet, to educate me. Please educate me, Hasan. I am begging. I'm begging for you to educate.
Here, we do not live in a socialist country. We do not live in a socialist utopia. We do not live in a global socialist organization of the economy.
I don't hate him.
No shit.
I don't hate
What's
Hasan.
wrong? You haven't even heard his answer yet. You haven't even heard what he said. Literally talking about rehabilitation for people who have committed crimes, like violent crimes and terrorism, ideological terrorism. What's the problem? That's what.
The problem is whether or not free expression is still permitted. That's the problem.
Hasan's position is here. We've just gone over that. No one's got any good pushback. Liberal Latino spazzed out at first, but then can't justify anything. So we've got no good pushback. It seems like Hasan is just...
Okay, Queeman, here's my pushback if you ever want to talk about it. Do you still have the First... I know he's not American, but do you have the First Amendment in your free socialist society? Do you have freedom of conscience, freedom of speech? And if you have freedom of conscience and freedom of speech, let's say that we start doing the socialist model. We've decommodified basic human needs, so food, water, and shelter is free. And workers own the means of production, meaning that everybody shares, does like profit sharing as a part of their business model, and it's compelled by the state. Let's say that there's a level of economic stagnation that occurs that discourages the general public, and the economy doesn't grow as fast as it used to. And let's say that there are people who successfully propagandize capitalism, where you don't have to have people owning the means of production as a part of your economic model, and they start to gain traction within a democratic system. What do you do with those people? Because if you say, oh yeah, well, I mean, if they win a plurality or a majority of the votes, then we revert back to capitalism, then I probably wouldn't give a shit. I would just be like, okay, you're an incrementalist socialist. You just want to fight it out within the marketplace of ideas. Then I actually probably just would not care, because I think socialists are fucking losers and they're not going to win. However, if you say, well, we're going to use the state to indoctrinate people both at the public education level that socialism is really the only just economic system. And then also, if you're an adult who advocates for capitalism, we're going to force you to go to night classes about how socialism is based. And if you don't comply, we're going to ticket you. And if you don't pay the ticket, we're going to incarcerate you. Then you're going to be the authoritarian piece of fucking shit that I accuse you of being. So yeah, this matters. So please steelman me out of this position. That's my criticism. I think that you're hiding your power level. I think you're authoritarian. I think you're a piece of shit. Not you, Queeman, Hasan. But I think you sweeping for Hasan is piece of shit behavior. I think you're playing footsie with fucking MLs and tankies. I think you sweep for MLs and tankies. And I think that the far lefties and the sock dems who use the term socialism, I think you're useful idiots. I think you're useful idiots for people more nefarious than you. I've said this a dozen times. Please fight me.
Asking for rehabilitation that includes like education about how to fit into that society with the ideology that is in the government. And much the same.
Okay, well, right now in a free society, you're permitted to be a socialist as an adult. So in your society, are you permitted to be a capitalist as an adult? And if you're a capitalist as an adult and you start winning, what happens then?
Same way that we try and de-radicalize people from Islamic extremism in many Western countries because that ideology does not fit with the ideology of the government. Why does he believe socialism will win with education, though? It seems very cultish. Well, everyone believes their ideology. Well, hopefully everyone believes their ideology would win with education, right? I believe my ideology would win with education, right? You just
What is it?
assume that most people are rational actors, and if they have access to all the information,
Most people are not rational actors. They're irrational buffoons.
then they'll come to the right decision, and you believe that your decision is the right decision. And as such, if everyone had perfect information and you're all going, we would all come to the same decision, right? That's the, hopefully everyone thinks that, unless you're ideal people, which it might.
I hate her.
Whoops.
LB says, just let him finish the thought, Connor. Hassan has never swept for the USSR. Oh, just modern China. My apologies.
All of the mind-numbingly retarded.
And by the way, the thought so far, we are 18 minutes into this. The only thought Hasan has expressed so far, I can't believe he has popular content. The only thought so far is, you're misrepresenting me. Don't ask me to explain how.
Fucking fans that can watch him squirm like this and not think that it's the most. You literally have.
And you see it like the way he's designing this conversation, which is not even like that contentious. It's just, this is back when Ethan and I were obviously cordial with one another. And this is supposed to be like a normal conversation. He's asking questions. There's a little bit of bad faith, but that happens in all back and forth debates. It's fine. But this is like the initial jump off point. And he just says like, I'm squirming. So then his parasocial fans also consider this to be squirming. And then they just.
Okay, stop talking about squirming. Share your idea, you dumb twat. You himbo. Just say what you really believe. Stop talking about. I can't believe this is content, by the way. I'm actually getting angry. Instead of talking about how nobody understands what you believe, explain what you believe, you coward. Just say it. Just say, this is the way that I would model it. Just say that so we all know. Stop hiding your power level. Stop playing around. Say it.
Just like repeat it over and over again. And then ultimately the only thing that people remember from that, if they don't actually watch the original source material personally.
I don't care. You've already said this. You've already said this.
These guys are basically realizing after years and years of this, like,
nope, still not explaining it.
In Gaza, and we're here now. So
oh, okay. I was right about a different topic, so that's why you're misrepresenting me. Good explanation. I'll rewind 20 seconds to see what this is.
That maybe the negative framing wasn't correct. And I think part of that is because
still not explaining, bro. This is the most worthless content on the planet. How do people listen to this?
Destiny took such a strong stance that was pro-Israel doing a genocide, and that the environment shifted in my direction as I knew it inevitably would when people realized the totality of this violence that Israel is pushing.
Now we're talking about a totally different topic. Okay, cool. Keep going. Can't believe you're successful. Continue.
In Gaza, and we're here now. So I think a lot of people are basically reconsidering their stances because they were so heavily invested in whatever Sex Pestany was saying and just kind of regurgitating that this is a moment where it's like, well, maybe regurgitating Sex Pestany's stances are not the most appropriate way to go about this. Maybe we should reconsider the way we have broached the subject because hold on. Doors open. Doors open. Yeah.
Dude, he's explained nothing so far. All right, Queeman, I trust to get to the fucking point. All right, come on, Queeman.
On balance, most people are rational. If you have enough people voting with access to all the information, the rational decision will win out, okay? My ideology is that mass education is fundamentally impossible. We're doomed to a cycle of constant changing systems, okay?
And asking the most innocuous questions, and Hasan is
Ouroboros
acting like he's getting
pilled.
pressed
Absolutely
in front of like
Ouroboros
a
pilled.
fucking Senate Judiciary Committee, and he's like under oath, and he's like committed like 50 million crimes. He's trying to hide from the United States. Like, it's actually appalling.
Dude, yeah, just answer the question. Just say what you believe. Holy shit.
Depends on, it depends
not
on
him.
crimes,
Yeah.
right? Like, are people committing crimes at the behest of this? Because if there's a socialist state and someone is doing like white terror, let's say, or someone is doing
Stealing
South
wages.
Korean style, purges of communists, which has happened historically in every country that America.
Sorry, hold on.
It's my
We just skipped
antibiotics.
so much shit. Just stupid. My synergy froze. Oh, this is the
But rather than
this is the clip. Hold on. This is what they want to do.
abandoning the
Okay. Right here. LB is saying it's bad faith that Destiny pulled up a clip of a socialist owning his beliefs, where he's going to talk about the system that he wants. So what I expect Hasan Piker to do, because he's good faith and he's always clipped out of context and he's such a nice, ooh-woo, cute himbo, I expect him to engage with the idea that's being presented and explain what he agrees with and what he disagrees with. I do not expect him to endlessly dance away and say that he's constantly being misrepresented while never saying what he represents. Okay? We agree? We agree that if Hasan Piker has like 100 IQ is average, right? We agree that if Hasan Piker has 100 IQ, instead of dancing about what is not his position, he's going to explain to us his position. Correct? We agree with that as a chat? Okay, excellent. I'm looking forward to his explanation. I really am.
diagnosed or untreated mental illness will be substantially lower. It's a sad
Wow,
fact that some
non-compete
violent
video.
or predatory individuals may never be capable of
Yeah, so he then moves on to like someone else's position.
No, Hasan, wrong move, because if you had an IQ above 100, you would listen to that position and then you would explain your position, what you agree with and what you don't agree with. You wouldn't just constantly dance away. So don't dance away, Hasan. Present your position, please.
Instead of addressing mine after he's
What's yours? You've been dancing away from a position for 30 fucking minutes.
already like thoroughly dismissed it and poisoned the well about a position that I'm not advocating for. But
What's your position, please? Please explain. Please explain about how your re-education camps are uwu and cutesy and kawaii, and how Second Thought or whatever that guy's name is, not Second Thought, whoever that guy was. Please explain why his re-education camps are not uwu and not kawaii. Please explain to me. I'm ready. Hit me with the knowledge, Hasan.
by the time I actually describe myself, he can also say, oh, well, he's now hiding this position that I ascribed to
You've spent more time explaining how they were misrepresenting your position when you could have just explained it already.
him. So I say something. and
No, I don't want to hear this for the 50th
full
time.
perspective, he's already decided that my position is actually that I want re-education.
This is not content. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't watch Hasan. He's too stupid.
to give them the best possible chance at recovery and reform with the hopes of eventually re-entering society. In situations where re-entry does seem possible, care must be taken to monitor and assist these reformed individuals to preempt relapse or deception and to ensure that they back into wider society. Reactionaries and counter-revolutionaries would be treated in a very similar manner. How we deal with former capitalists, fascists, and other such oppressors will be one of the great tests of anarchist society. Great care must be taken to treat them
Like, I'm not
compassionately.
even an anarchist. He is.
I don't want to hear what you're not. I want to hear what you are.
This is all the same. These are all
No, you're still explaining what you're not.
buyer persona around taking the opposing position.
I don't want to hear about opposing positions. I want to hear about your position.
Pretty
Let's go.
straightforward with my perspective. As a matter of fact, perhaps too straightforward with my perspective.
Go ahead. I would love to hear it, Hasan. I'm ready.
The difference, however, is that I change the way I message, even if my moral compass is still the same, depending on the audience. If I'm talking to a bunch of 75-year-olds, I'm not going to use, for example, memes that only 30-year-olds would understand or only 20-year-olds would understand. You straight up said you were a propagandist on Piers Morgan? Yes. And if you look,
not only did you say you're a propagandist on Piers Morgan, you also went on to the Deprogram podcast and you said that you hide your power level.
Listen to the entire conversation with Piers Morgan, you would recognize that my position on that is that propaganda is a neutral term. Okay. I had a show on the Young Turks called Agitative.
Bruh.
Honest to say what you're.
Okay. I can't do this anymore. Where does Hasan Piker explain? Hasan Piker explains socialism. I actually couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Okay. Which one do you think? Okay, because he literally spent 30 fucking minutes talking about how he's not. So this is 13 minutes. Are we good with that? I'm good with 13 minutes. I could do 13 minutes. Let's see what it is.
I'm really stupid. Can you educate me a little bit on Marxism? I don't know what it is for real. Marxism is just a theory on how commodity production works under a capitalist organization of the economy, how we have evolved under the industrial revolution and onwards to have our current capitalist production, commodity production.
Are we gonna get any explanation on how this society is going to be enforced and how it's not going to be authoritarian and degenerate, or is he just going to stick with the economics?
The relationship between those who produce the work, the workers, versus those who profit from the labor that you put in, the bourgeoisie, the capital owners. And the ultimate goal is to democratize the economy rather than just the way that we theorize how our current governance should operate in an ideal world. Like democracy should operate in a certain way, right? With means of accountability in the form of elections. Kind of like that, but for the workplace. There are multiple different ways of arriving at that end goal, but the ultimate goal is for workers to own the means of production. Communism never worked in real life. People who believe in it are delusional. Yeah.
Based. Guessio 26.
Well, capitalism isn't working in real life right now, so okay.
You fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. Capitalism isn't working right now. You have a $10,000 dog behind you. You're sitting at a $2,000 desk. You're sitting on a $500 chair. You have a $700 microphone in your fucking face. You have never known a day of starvation in your entire fucking life. Capitalism has worked just fine, particularly for you. You fucking tool. You fucking moron. You fucking hot bag of air. What the fuck are you talking about? Capitalism hasn't worked. We are drowning in endless levels of wealth. I am not even a particularly wealthy person. I just pay my bills. I have a 3D printer that prints resin. I have a 3D printer that prints FDM. I am not a wealthy person, and my home is filled with knickknacks. I have replica swords. I have firearms that can blow things up. I have a fucking gas mask that I got from law enforcement that allows me to breathe in harsh environments. I have a motor vehicle that allows me to drive hundreds of miles on the cheapest gas on the planet. What the fuck are you talking about? Capitalism hasn't worked. Are you a dumbass?
Fair. Sure, communism never worked in real life. Okay, how about that? Let's just say it didn't. Okay, those very same metrics of.
Paperboy says Tim Pool and Pisco just premiered. Yeah, probably. I'll probably watch that next. There's content that I want to do for Gen X. Gen X asked me to review a panel debate between Gibbs and an ex-MAGA person, and I want to watch that because I fucking hate Gibbs, and I want to support any ex-MAGA person who's willing to fight current MAGA people, and I want to point out how dumb the arguments are. I know it might not be particularly algorithmically popular, but maybe I'll just push it to like Monday, and then we'll just do it like in the morning on a Monday, which is normally a slower day anyways. But yeah, I'll watch Peace go on Tim Pool. God, I hate this man.
Of success are also literally not working in real life right now under a capitalist organization of the economy. So what do? Do we just keep crying about how communism didn't work, or do we try to fix the system that we're currently existing under? I say we fix the system that we're currently existing under through a
How? How? You hair plug finasteride consuming moron.
series of reforms. Pretty sure this is capitalism working. Really? You think it's working? It's working for you, maybe, because you're on Twitch. You can watch me. You know, we're slowly destroying the fucking planet because we care more about the profit motive than the lives of the next generation that will come before us. I mean, that come after us. I mean, there is so much death and destruction all around the world.
Which has substantively reduced over the past 200 years, particularly within the past century, you fucking historical ignoramus.
Yeah, it's far away, so we're not seeing it. But then we do kind of see it because we send those foot soldiers over there. We send those foot soldiers over there that do death, destruction, and destabilization. They come back in a state of disrepair. We don't even fucking offer them the social safety nets that we told them they would get, only if they sold their body to the American imperialist war machine. Doesn't seem like it's working. I mean, it's working.
I mean, as a former imperialist foot soldier, I would actually say it was pretty fucking sweet.
For some, working for me, motherfucker. I'm doing all right. Okay, I am working for you know, the factory owner. It's working for those who are executives at massive corporations. It's working for the fucking finance bros. But it's not working for your dad. It's not working for you. It's certainly not working if you unfortunately had a shitty spawn point. You know, spawned in a developing nation that is going to be destroyed by America's long dick because they have natural resources that need to be extracted, or a labor force that needs to be exploited. They were agreeing with you, and that was their point. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Ogre Boy, I already know I'm going to ban you. I'm just going to wait until I get to a comment that you say that makes me sufficiently mad that I ban you. Okay. I'm going to show you something. Orlando helicopter tour time lapse. Okay, so this is Orlando. I live in Central Florida. Okay, this is an 8-minute video. Florida, 150 years ago, was populated by Native Americans and escaped slaves, and they were in something called the Negro Fort. All right. And eventually, I forget if we bought or if we conquered Florida. I think we bought Florida from the Spanish, but we bought Florida from the Spanish. And then we went into the river system. The Negro Fort fired on the federal patrol boat, and then the federal patrol boat blew up the fort. Okay. That's what happened. That's how Florida's modern colonial history kicked off, was we killed Native Americans and slaves. Now, we also had the Seminole, who are the only, I think the only Native American tribe that survived federal displacement. But they survived, and they have ranches as far as the eye can see, and they are some of the country's most successful cattle ranchers, and they're decently successful casino owners as well. So the Native Americans, while getting screwed over, have developed Florida into an economic powerhouse for themselves. Working class blacks and whites in Central Florida started out with phosphate mining. Okay, so they were part of the exploited proletariat that was part of like the Industrial Revolution. And so they were working mining phosphates out of the ground. And it didn't pay much, but it paid enough. And so as a result, there was a micro industry along with the ranching that came with the South. Now, Florida only had a population of 200,000, so it didn't participate in the Civil War particularly aggressively. But the way that they did participate was they shipped cattle and weapons that they purchased from Bermuda, I think, to the Confederacy. And then when Georgia got burned, Florida was too much of a backwater to even bother destroying. Now, Central Florida up until it became a theme park paradise, was orange groves. That was our industry, was oranges. Prior to, you know, the mouse, our economy was based off of agriculture, and it was called Mosquito County, but we renamed it to Orange County to encourage tourism. So what ended up happening was theme parks. Walt Disney was a psychopath. Okay, he was an absolute psychological freak. But what he did is he said, well, there's tons of land available for development. It's cheap. It's warm. This would probably be an excellent place for a theme park. And so he built Disney, and then that completely changed the Central Floridian economy to the point that literally dozens of companies have built theme parks here because there was wide open, cheap land. And we are one of the most visited cities on the planet. If you're talking about international visitation, Thailand, I think, like Bangkok, is visited by more people internationally, but Orlando has like 90 million visitors per year. I think Thailand has like 24 million annual foreign visitors. Orlando has like 20 million, 14 million annual foreign visitors, and it has 80 million domestic visitors. Almost a third of the United States travels to Orlando every year. It's fucking crazy. And this has boomed the economy. Now, we still have problems, right? Like being working class, being a bartender, being a server, being a restaurant worker, being a cashier. That sucks, but you can survive. Like, you can pay your bills, you can pay your rent, you can eat food, you can afford your cheap, shitty car, right? So this is capitalism as it's presently working. You don't have to like it, but it works. It has its flaws. How would decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production improve this? How would an authoritarian government that enforces these massive encumbrances of the state, how would that improve Orlando, Florida? And my answer is it wouldn't. It would probably make it infinitely worse. So why the fuck would I ever say that capitalism isn't working, even with all its warts and flaws and foibles? Fucking infuriating. I think you can only say this if you're the most overprivileged dumbass in the world. Florida had this. We had a subsistence economy. We developed past this, and now we enjoy abundant wealth. This isn't the end state of foreign countries. This is the beginning. And if you don't understand that, it's because you're a dumbass, like Hasan Piker.
Well, that is capitalism working as intended, yes. We here in the United States of America live under the comfort of being a part of the labor aristocracy. So our relationship, no matter where we are.
Yeah, no shit. But my grandparents weren't a part of the labor aristocracy, and neither were their parents.
As a worker, our relationship with the means of production might be similar, like a worker in a developing nation. Okay. The reality is we recognize that you wouldn't be able to have those same material possessions and commodities for as cheap as you currently do if it wasn't for the other worker that's being super exploited overseas, like the Indonesian child laborer is working in a fucking sweatshop. So the entire system is run by exploiting the third world, the global south. And you
which is accumulating capital and developing. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't like Lagos, Nigeria, like isn't this held up as one of the places that's developing to the point that like they have their own internal economy, where Lagos, Nigeria, like has this the waterfront if you can afford it. So they have like the rich bougie areas, they have the normal areas, but this is in fucking West Africa, right? This is supposed to be one of like the most destitute and fucked up places on the planet, and yet they're supposed to be industrializing and modernizing their economy to the point that this like muddy riverine shithole is going to be developed to the point that it's no longer like that. They're not just staying stagnant, they're developing. You tool bag.
kind of recognize that. So you're like, yeah, it's kind of working. I have McDonald's. Things are all right for me.
Hell yeah.
hey, I can fucking order a Big Mac and shit, you know? But it's not. You no longer leftists reform capitalism? What? When have I ever strayed away from social democracy in the short term, socialism in the long term? Like, it's
Ogre Boy, maybe you could, maybe I won't ban you. Although if you say something annoying, I probably will. Explain it to me. Explain it to me. Explain to me how you achieve the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production without a vanguard party, without authoritarianism. Feel free to explain it to me. Maybe you're not sub 80 IQ Hasan Piker dick suck. Maybe you could explain it to me. I would love it if you stopped being a antipathetic, aggressive, weird freak and just explained it. That would be fantastic. Feel free to type me out a paragraph. I would fucking love it.
It's literally always been what I've advocated for. The fuck do you mean? Like literally since day one, I've been advocating for that. And a lot of people, like a lot of Marxist Leninists, for example, fucking hate that approach. Okay, because I'm a fucking revisionist. I've been watching some YouTube videos here and I understand that you're
there's also violence in the current state of affairs. Whoa. Whoa. Hold on, Ogre Boy's blowing my mind. Capitalism requires violence. The violence between socialism and capitalism is equivalent. Amazing. You blew my whole mind, Ogre Boy. You changed the way that I view the world because capitalism also requires violence. Good job. Good job, dumbass. Oh, amazing.
against the concept of meritocracy, but I don't understand how people would be pushed to progress. Even myself, I wouldn't be pushed to do more if I wasn't rewarded. Dude, you wouldn't be pushed to do more.
True.
In this current organization of the economy. The point is, I'll explain it to you easily, okay? When I
Ogre Boy says that you should go find another video. Interestingly enough, I found another video.
worked for someone else, I was still doing something that I loved, okay? And I worked really fucking hard at it. But the fruits of my labor were never mine, okay? I had to do everything I can to make my own way within that corporate structure, even though it was a startup. So I had a lot more leeway, a lot more bandwidth to be able to experiment with certain things. And because of a lack of division of labor there, I was able to show that, like, this is literally what I'm doing. But they could very easily take away my IP, give it to other people, cut my fucking time, and tell me, you can't do that anymore. You have to do this instead. That.
Okay. You had to work for somebody else until you were able to accumulate enough resources that you could go out on your own and create your own entrepreneurial venture. Problem?
Is alienation from your labor, okay? This is a Marxist concept, easily defined by alienation from your labor. You have no control over what you do. You go into work and your fucking boss tells you this is what you're gonna do. Here are your key performance indicators that you have to hit. Here are your targets that you have to hit.
Yes, being an employee sucks. Nobody disagrees with this. In the framework where you're doing terrorist violence backed by capitalist views, that's where the re-education is a factor, not just speech. Oh, okay. So you do believe in freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. Okay, so Ogre Boy, bear in mind I'm behind in chat because I actually read my chat, unlike most streamers. What? I'm going to try to be good faith. Hopefully you don't piss me off so bad that I have to ban you. So I'm going to ask this question, presuming that you're still in chat. Okay, so not just freedom of speech. So what do you do? Let's say that we're in a democratic society, and let's say that the socialists got into power and they decommodified basic human needs and workers own the means of production. However, there are people who are nostalgic about capitalism and they propagandize enough of society that they now want to vote in capitalism. They want to go back from your perspective. Now what? What do you do with those people? What do you do with the party that is antagonizing for capitalism? They're doing it legally. They're using their freedom of speech and freedom of conscience. What do you do with those people when you're about to lose the system that you've been fighting for your entire life, that you've dedicated your personality to, that you have a tattoo about? What do you do?
And you're basically a cog in a machine where you fucking generate revenue for your bosses. Obviously, that's not desirable. Of course, you're not going to fucking work super hard. It's the most human thing to
Bullshit. If you don't have any integrity, then you won't work super hard. Plenty of people who within the capitalist system work just fine because they have something called work ethic. They're not bed blobs. They're not bed blob, unproductive fucking pothead freaks.
want to work for as little as you possibly can and get paid the most. That's what you want as a worker. And your boss,
No, if you're a piece of shit, that's what you want.
wants to extract the maximum amount of surplus value from you. So they want you to work as hard as you possibly can for the least amount of money they can pay you and get away with. Basic principles of how capitalist organizations of the economy works. This is like normal human shit. The point is, if you had an ownership over the means of production, if you had more ownership over what you were doing, if you had more control over what your
No, Ogre Boy is right. I'm 60 years old.
output was going to be, you would be excited to work. You would love what you're doing. Even if you're doing something that is backbreaking, menial, you would still.
Ogre Boy says, you've gone down like 40 viewers since you started watching. That spreading of awareness is really doing the trick. Ogre Boy, like a month ago, I was at 70 viewers. So how's your stream going? Try not to say the F slur.
Recognize that this is necessary work that you must do because you're achieving something for yourself. And the example I will always use is, look, I fucking work for myself, dude. I do. That's why I don't mind streaming fucking 8 hours a day when I limit my hours. Like, that's why I didn't mind streaming 42% of the entire year last year, because I get to dictate the terms. Yeah, I have 30,000 micromanagers who tell me like, dude, what the fuck? I can't believe you're, changing your hair. Or I can't believe you're fucking, not covering this like weird thing that I want you to cover. It's fucking bullshit. But I can ban them. I have complete control. When you're in the service industry or when you're in a job, you don't have that control. You can't tell your manager to suck your cock. Okay, you will get fired. And when you get fired,
Logan says, Connor, you must realize this segment is only about shitting on Destiny. He's not interested in explaining politics right now, only watching someone quote unquote dunk on Destiny. Yeah, that's why I changed.
you will have to rely on social safety nets that are lackluster at best. Okay, in effect.
Okay, so I was really waiting for what really is Marxism. We're halfway through the segment. All we're doing is we're explaining the bad parts of capitalism. I understand. I worked for other people. It sucked. Some of my bosses were dumb. Yes. There was a level of uncertainty and lack of financial independence that was uncomfortable. I agree with all these things. Continue.
And also, you will lose your fucking health care, which is terrifying. I no longer have those fears. I have still some alienation from my labor, obviously. But having said that, because, Amazon still owns and operates these platforms, they still have certain regulations.
I think you're alienated from your labor because working in general sucks ass, Hasan, but whatever. Continue.
That I have to abide by. I have contracts that I have contractual obligations that I need to follow, all that good stuff. However, I have significantly less alienation from my work. So my goal, my hope is that people can all get to a point where even if they're fucking cleaning toilets, okay, even if they're in the service industry, they recognize that what they're doing is bettering their own lives. They are getting positive incentives rather than the negative incentives of lack of remuneration if you are fucking fired. Because everything that motivates us right now under our current design, under our current organization of the economy, is the fear that you will fucking die, the fear that you won't be able to put a roof over your head, the fear that you won't be able to put food on your table, clothes on your back. If you don't work, you're not going to get those things. I would rather.
Which, by the way, this is actually one of my arguments for capitalism. Okay. If I have food, water, shelter, internet, and video games, I'm not doing dick for the rest of my life. I'm going to sit around, I'm going to play video games, and I am going to do nothing. So the decommodification of basic human needs, food, water, and shelter being guaranteed at the point of service. And I assume that some like Obama do-gooder person, when he did the federal universal service charge, which is a $10 tax on every cell phone bill that you ever pay in order to pay for poor people's cell phones, because cell phones are a necessary part of the modern economy. If my cell phone was paid for, if my internet was paid for, I would just play fucking video games. That's literally all I would do. I would smoke pot. I would play video games. I would do nothing. So if I know that I would do that, and the decommodification of basic human needs would probably tank vast swaths of the economy, why would I want that? I want a little bit of fire under my feet. I want to know that I have to work in order to be able to secure food, water, and shelter. If I didn't have to secure food, water, and shelter, I wouldn't do dick. So he's explaining it like this. It's this totally oppressive phenomena. Guess what? That isn't an oppressive phenomena exclusively related to capitalism. That's related to nature. Do you know what animals have to find every single day? Food, water, shelter. Every single day, a squirrel wakes up. He's like, I need to find a tree to hang out in. I need to find some place that I can drink water. I need to find fucking, nuts to eat, right? Then what does an alligator do? He's swimming in water, so that's good. That's already half the problem. The shelter is the bottom of the lake, so that's good. That's, 2/3 of the problem. And then he needs to find food, which, luckily lots of things come into the water, and then you're just an asshole because you're an ambush predator, and then you attack the things that come into the water, and then you eat them. So realistically, like, alligators actually have it quite good. That's probably why I don't feel bad for them, is because they're piece of shit fucking ambush predators. But the whole point is that if that's the state of nature, that you need to find food, water, and shelter every single day, and if that's a massive motivating factor for biological creatures that spurs them into productive activity, why am I going to eliminate what spurs them into productive activity? It sounds like those people are no longer going to be productive, and our economy is reliant on productivity. Now, if you want to say that through a combination of artificial intelligence, robots, space mining, and high technology, we will be able to automate most labor, start doing it, bro. I will support UBI in decommodification of basic human needs when you have a slave army of robots that do not give a fuck about picking oranges 16 hours a day. Okay? When you have an army of slave robots, I will come around on some of these ideas.
Either switch that in its entirety and make you work for the true freedom, make you work because you want to. So
True. Well, hold on. He's trying to emancipate you from nature so you can be truly free. I understand that as a socialist project, and you could do that. But the truth is, if most people, if they're free, they don't want to work.
So that's why I always say, like, dude, you're not fucking lazy. You just hate your job. And it's understandable that you hate your
bullshit
job. How are you going to be proud of your work when it's just to clean toilets? Who's going to clean the toilets if you don't clean the toilets, dumbass? You want the toilets overflowing with shit? That's a profoundly important part of a fucking workplace. And no one wants to do it. Sure, but I would say using yourself as an example is
yeah, that's why you get paid.
Kind of confusing because it's not the same as working 9 to 5 at fucking McDick's. How would Marxism make working at a fast food place more rewarding? What would ease the alienation? There was an incredible example from a pizza place that I will show you, okay? There was a pizza shop. There was a pizza shop in Ohio that decided to distribute a day's profit amongst his employees for one fucking day. Turns out, you know what happened? There were 220 orders. The shop shared that it received about $6,300 in sales and $1,200 in tips, which would be divided amongst his employees. It thanked all its customers. They got $78 an hour.
Okay. If you want to do a rev share model, do a rev share model. I fucking love rev share models. I do rev share models.
When adjusted to their regular fucking payment, which is like around $12 an hour or whatever the fuck, if they're lucky, implies that whatever that difference is literally what is known as surplus labor value. What you are generating for the business that you are not getting back. Capitalists understand it as profit. It is the most normal thing in a capitalist. I
can't believe I have to explain this, but I'm going to because so many people are so fucking stupid. Okay, that's awesome. I love revenue share. Revenue share is great. And if you have a thriving, successful business and you don't have any ideas about expansion, that's totally fine. Okay, love it. Good for you. God bless you. However, plenty of people, they don't just want to create one pizza shop. They want to be franchise owners. They want to be financial imperialists. They want a California pizza kitchen on every corner. They want a Domino's or a Cece's or a Pizza Hut on every corner. They want a Burger King or a McDonald's on every corner. They want a Circuit City, which is now defunct, or a Best Buy in every city. They want a Walmart in every city. So it's not just enough for them to create one business and then do revenue share with all of the profits. Okay? They want capital, meaning that they take a substantive amount of that revenue and they turn that into more things to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow the business. So while I am absolutely for dignified wages for the working class, I also think that we need a certain amount of economic flexibility so that entrepreneurial ventures, if they want to be a mom and pop pizza shop, God bless them. But if they want to be a national chain, God bless that as well. Fuck. Why do I have to explain that?
Organization of the economy. Now, this is one way that you can immediately remedy the situation. Wouldn't you have to subtract some of that to pay for ingredients and utilities and rent? Yes, of course. Of course. Now, in a democratic
I'm happy somebody's smart enough to ask that question.
organization, what you do with the $75,000 or what you do with the additional money that you have generated in the form of profit would be democratically decided on. So in a democratic design, in a work
You're right. This is the crux of it. Hasan Piker is pretending that he cares about the opinions of the plebeian masses, and I don't pretend that I care about the opinions of the plebeian masses. This is actually the crux of the issue. It's whether or not you think human beings are capable of making good decisions as a collective. That's actually what it is. That we've identified the crux of the argument. I think that individuals, people in my chat, except for Ogre Boy, are 3,000 IQ, well-endowed, beautiful human beings with excellent taste in content. So I parasocially love all of you except for Ogre Boy. And so as a result, I trust you as individuals to make good choices about your lives. However, if we were to just get 100,000 people of the average population, and then we came up with a series of legalistic proposals about how we were run society, I expect 51-49 splits on issues, and I expect half of the things that we vote on to be very, very, very stupid. I do not trust the average population. That's why I'm a Republican, which implies representative democracy. Ogre Boy says, go Google homeless people 2025 and ask them how much capitalism has done for them. I don't give a fuck about homeless people, Ogre Boy. I'm not gonna lie. I don't care. I don't care. I care about it insofar as I think there should be a route out of homelessness, meaning that if a homeless person wants to get out of homelessness, then they should be able to find employment, get sober, and rejoin the rest of society. There should be off ramps to homelessness. But if you're a drug addict who loves drugs, I don't give a shit that you don't have a house. You know, like if you're too stupid to do hard drugs and you're like, I don't need shelter or water or food because I have heroin and I love heroin. Maybe you're too stupid to be alive. You know what I'm saying?
workplace, like this doesn't automatically mean like you fucking distribute all of the fucking dollars back to the workers themselves. Workers themselves could get together if it's a small pizza shop and decide, hey, you know what? We are going to take a pool of these funds that we're going to accumulate over the course of the fucking month, and we're going to spend it on marketing. This is going to be our marketing budget, marketing expenditure. They're going to say, hey, we're going.
You know what's funny, Michael, is what's the communist policy towards people who refuse to work? What's so funny about that is that these guys will say like, oh, well, you know, most people just really, they just want to be productive with something that they care about. So as a result, within a voluntary economy, everyone will find their niche. But you know what the fucking Soviets said? The Soviets said, if you don't work, you don't eat.
To buy cleaning supplies, like extra cleaning supplies, because I'm the janitor and I'm saying like we need additional cleaning supplies that would make this way more efficient. That's how you would operate rather than with a top-down approach where you're just like, yeah, fuck you.
The pastor says, appreciate that you're concerned that Democrats are allowing a hostile takeover of the party when you yourself are not a part of that party because you care about the country. I came here to say that. No, I mean, like, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, but yeah, I watched the Republican Party get annihilated by a cult. If that happens to the left, we're screwed. We're totally screwed. If the moderate Democrats don't beat out the far left and the far left takes over the Democratic Party, similar to the way that MAGA has taken over the Republican Party, the United States is actually like, it's not over. It's never over, but it will be very bad. Very, very, very bad.
Here's what you get. Once again, that's revenue, you fool. Dude, shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter. Okay, limit that then. Like, lower it by $1,000. Who gives a fuck, idiot? Why is this so fucking hard for you to understand?
Because you're espousing things that are actually incredibly complex that people dedicate their entire lives to running. Like, accountants don't exist because they're part of the parasitic class. It's because the jobs they do are very important. Financial projection specialists don't exist because they're technocratic parasites. They exist because they actually truly do help businesses figure out how to conduct their businesses in the most profitable way possible. And then the bourgeois, the business owners, there's plenty of parasitic business owners. Do not get me wrong. I've met plenty of bosses and owners who did not know their ass from their elbow, and they took incredible amounts of wealth from their successful businesses and they spent it on boats and mistresses. Okay, so don't get it twisted. I'm not defending the parasites. Fuck the parasites. But amongst the ownership class, I've also met plenty of people who intentionally created financial empires that they had their hand on the entire time. And anytime they would have taken their hand off the wheel, the vehicle would have gone crashing into the ditch. So that's one of the contradictions of capitalism, is that there are wealthy parasites who do nothing but take the revenue from their businesses and live lives that you and I can only imagine. But there are also people, but they're lucky, and they're probably not going to be lucky forever. And then there's plenty of people who run financial empires very intentionally, and it's their life's work. Big in Gaming says, kind of crazy how the top 5 cities for homeless people are the ones that most progressives in terms of things, because so much regulation has hurt their ability to do anything. It could be correlative. I don't think Gibbs is a veteran. I don't think he is. Joey Apley says, Connor, your wealth was just cut in half by MAGA, Medicaid, Medicare, education, etc. Are social wealth that are stolen by the ultra wealthy? Yeah, that's bad. It's bad when essential social services are cut.
We're talking about theory right now, okay? It doesn't matter if it's 78. Instead of 78, it's fucking $60 an hour, okay? That's still 3x what you would... More than 3x. That's fucking 6x of what you would make average. And this doesn't mean that like all work is equally paid, okay? Who takes the risk from lawsuits and whatnot? A shared pool of funds, brother. Just like when you have a union, you literally fucking pay union dues so you...
Ogre Boy says, seethe harder. You understand that I'm seething because your daddy is fucking retarded. Sorry, ableist slur. I'm sorry, Ken. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Jesus. I'm sorry to the disabled people of the world. Your parasocial dad is so dumb that he can't explain his philosophy, ideology, or economic models in a way that's coherent and simple within a few minutes. He can't. I can. You know why? Because I'm smart. Your parasocial dad is dumb. You're probably dumb. Just in case you didn't know that, I just wanted you to know that you're probably actually dumb. Like, your IQ is not very high. If you tried to be an astronaut, you would probably fail. If you try to be a mechanical engineer, you would probably fail. If you think Hasan is smart, you are probably dumb. Just saying. He has a bad way of relaying information. He is terrible. A lot of people say that I'm incredibly verbose. This dude talks for 20 minutes at a time and says 2 sentences that contain actual information. It's borderline impressive how much of a fucking yapper he is. He is the king of the yappers.
You can hire your own lawyers against the corporation that decides to hire anti-union lawyers. Okay, that's how it works. It's literally how insurance works. Thank you for the Jeopardy contestant that said, what is insurance? We use it all the time in every other aspect of our lives. Collectivize the wins and collectivize the losses. So union is going to fight the case. What? Omega law? If everyone had a stake or a percentage ownership in the business, both in the means of production that they buy into with their labor over the course of an extended period of time, then yes.
Oh, it is the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production. Because, you know, I had a debate the other day and Econoboy just said socialism is just when you're uwu and cute and you do social democracy. That's what Econoboy said. So it's weird to me that Hasan Piker, the most popular socialist on the internet, does talk about the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. Meanwhile, Econoboy, the person that I was arguing with, said that it's just Scandinavian social democracy, but maybe we could go a bit further. That's interesting. That's interesting that there's a split right there.
They would literally do it. It's like if you're think about it from the point of view of your fucking daddy's business that you probably have, right? Your daddy's going to do everything he can to fucking defend his business, right? You would do everything you can to defend your daddy's business when you know that eventually it's going to get passed down to you, the shitter in my chat. That's how it would work for all of the workers. Now, the reason why I mentioned
Christian Blair says, I like to imagine how people were able to wear suits and dresses before modern air conditioning. You just did it during winter. That's the like, in my opinion, I'm sure that people went to church wearing suits and ties and sundresses and all that stuff. I'm sure they did that in Florida during the summer. But I think the rest of the year they were or the rest of the summer they were probably in shorts and t-shirts and stuff because it is so hot. And then during the winter, it's actually beautiful, like 60 degrees, 70 degrees. Winters in Florida are actually heaven on earth, which is funny because we pay for it through hell during the summer.
this is because, like, you know, this is just a fucking regular Ohio pizza shop, okay? Just a small business in the middle of Ohio. But this concept is one that has existed throughout history that Marx describes in, I guess, more complicated terms that I'm trying to make easier for you to understand. And I don't have all the answers in how co-op.
Dude, you know what this video would be if it was my video? It would be 1 minute long. And it would say, what really is Marxism? It's the, so socialism and communism are the two terms most often used in Marxism. Socialism is the class struggle of the working class trying to save themselves, to emancipate themselves from the oppression of their class. That's socialism. And the way that Marx believes you should do that is the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production. Communism is viewed as an ideal state of nature for communists where society is so abundant and people are so happy to work voluntarily that we no longer require money, states, or classes in order to survive as a civilized species. I feel like that is like a perfectly astute, concise summary of what socialism and communism are, not only in a general sense, but also in a specific sense in reference to communism. And instead, what did we get? We got 13 minutes of Hasan Piker fucking yapping about how capitalism sucks and how about bringing democracy to the workplace could be a good thing. This guy sucks at his job. I'm very surprised he's popular.
Ops would fucking operate. You know what I mean? I don't know. Sorry, my bad take. You really think the janitor is capable of making large scale allocation decisions like that?
No, but he's capable of voting within the system. That's what I almost guarantee you that's going to be his response.
Can't even see the top of the hour ad break coming. So how the fuck do you expect them to be charged of their own allocations?
Chris C says, Connor, I don't believe you have access to a motor vehicle because if you lived in Central Florida and had access to a motor vehicle, you would just leave. Fuck you. Nice meme.
Collectivize. I think that collective action is bad and wrong, okay, and immoral, and we should stop it, especially when chat collectively fucking tries to debate me into running the fucking ad break, okay? I don't appreciate it. I'm just going to say it right now. I don't appreciate
This dude sucks at his job.
it. All efforts to unionize chat will be squashed Yeah, it's top of the fucking hour. Okay, it's
Thank
time
you.
for a 60-second ad break. I'm gonna run the ad now. If you'd like to no longer see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5, or you can do it for free. Twitch Prime is how you can do it for free.
Okay, so he didn't explain what is Marxism well at all. It requires shitty service jobs to perpetuate that abundant wealth that you paint as just enough to survive, ass. Yeah, and you know what? As a young person, I had an excellent time. So, unlike your fucking fail dad, who has successfully stumbled his way into proselytizing to 80 IQ dipshits for millions of dollars per year, I actually had to work when I went to college. So, I started working when I was 15. I was a grocery store bagger. Then I worked at a car wash. Then I worked kitchen crew for a pizzeria. Then I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Then I came back. Then I became a salesperson for a franchise store selling cell phones. And I made like 10 to 12 bucks an hour. And I was able to pay my bills, but my life kind of sucked. I'm not going to lie. But I was still able to go to college. I was still able to, smoke some reefer. I was still able to drink some alcohol. And I was still able to hang out with women. And then as I got through school, I sold firearms, and then I also became a server at a restaurant. I actually became a server at the restaurant that I previously did kitchen crew for, and I made 20 to 30 bucks an hour being a server. And so after every shift, I would go out drinking with a bunch of other young people, and we would have a good ass time. Now I was broke. I paid my bills. I ate food and I drank alcohol. That's what I did while I worked in order to go through college. But I also had an incredible time. And then I became a cop, and my salary went from, I don't know, $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year if I had a good year, selling shoes or cell phones or being a restaurant server. I went from 35,000 to like 50,000, maybe 60,000. And my life still sucked, but I was able to pay my bills, get a house, get kids, and have like a really hard middle class existence. Now I'm doing even better than that. So I've actually had to climb these economic rungs. I know how bad they suck. I know the lifestyle at each economic rung. And yeah, being like a server or a bartender, it's hard work. You run your ass off. You have to deal with rude customers. You have to deal with all kinds of bullshit. But you can also make, I feel bad for kitchen crew. Kitchen crew was making like 10 bucks an hour, 15 bucks an hour. But as a server, I was making like 30. And so I could go drop 60 to 80 bucks on alcohol whenever I finished shift. It wasn't a bad life, and I was hanging out with lots of fun, cool, interesting, young people. So yeah, service jobs suck, but when you're young, they're fun. Let's go ahead and check out Pisco versus Tim Pool. And I guess I should summarize that thing. Hasan Piker's a fucking moron. I have no idea how he has a career. End of segment. All right. I parasocially love you guys. Go enjoy your other favorite streamers. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you being here. Bye for now.